You say 3 trillion, 30 trillion, it's just trillions. Well, anyway, I did say 3 trillion area. It's not, did I say area?
The more is too much, I guess.
Well, it is actually 30 trillion naira ways and means payment. Yes, that's what it is. And it's not area, it's earlier. Don't mind me. All right.
Anyways, Senator Godswill Akpabio has urged the investigating committee of the 30 trillion naira ways and means payment secured from the Central Bank of Nigeria by the immediate past government to go after those involved. Now, the Ways and Means is an overdraft taken directly from the Central Bank of Nigeria to solve the contingencies needs of the nation. The fund was released as a loan to the federal government during the former President Muhammadu Buhari's administration. Senator Akpabio charged the committee to carry out proper investigation into the matter and should set aside personal interests, focus on the tax, and approach their responsibilities with utmost balance and impartiality. Well, stay with us virtually to talk about this is Mr. Chris Paul Otaigbe, who is the International Chief Correspondent and Project Director of Affinity TV based in the UK. And also joining us virtually is Mr. Jide Ojo, consultant, author, columnist with The Punch, and of course, a public affairs analyst. Gentlemen, again, we say good morning to you. Now, let's get to this almost immediately. Senator Akpabio charging his fellow senators, of course, the committee at this point, to take the bull by its horns and setting out to do proper job as regards the investigation of this particular 30 trillion naira, well, for Ways and Means that was taken by the former administration. I'm going to stay with you, Mr. Jide Ojo, at this point. What do you make of this statement? And do you think that by any chance there might be some interesting light at the end of the tunnel as concerning this particular investigation?
Is that question for...
Yes, Mr. Jide Ojo. Mr. Jide Ojo, please.
So, it came to me as
I think we're trying to establish some very clean communication there. Well, I strongly believe that our producers are working with and on that. I don't know if you can hear us. Okay, go ahead.
I can hear you.
Okay, all right, go ahead, sir. All right, go ahead, sir.
Act. It was the governor of Edo State, Governor Obaseki, who raised alarm some few years ago that there is a lot of printing of Nigerian currency that is not backed up by law and by productivity. And that's what set us on the path of this hyperinflation that we currently have found ourselves where we are now close to 30%. The inflation, overall inflation is 30% and food inflation is about 35%. Because the CBN Act says you cannot grant Ways and Means above 5%. But under Emefiele, all the rules in the books were thrown under the bus, and the rules of the thumb was made to triumph. And I don't want to glamorize the attempt by the National Assembly to investigate these Ways and Means, because they were the one that gave the final note. Even though ab initio, they resisted.
Right, we'll take a little break. We'll take a very short break so you can, clear your throat, take care of yourself, and then we'll come back. But we'd like for you to hold on to your thought because we'll come back to this conversation and get your thoughts in. If you need a glass of water, please do indulge us. Get one. We'll be back to you in a short while. We'll be back after this very, very short break. Stay with us. All right, welcome back. We're still discussing the 30 trillion ways and means investigation by the ad hoc committee, and we have with us virtually a virtual guest. We have Jide Ojo, development consultant, author, columnist, and public affairs commentator, and we have Chris Paul Otaibe, international chief correspondent, project director, Affinity Television, based in the UK. We're discussing with these two gentlemen. Now we're talking with Jide Ojo on on your thoughts there. Please go ahead, and we do hope that you can talk a lot more freely now.
I hope so too.
Go ahead, please. Thank you.
So I believe that what the National Assembly is trying to do is just playing the ostrich, because they get the final note to the illegality that was performed by Godwin Emefiele and General Muhammadu Buhari. The oversight function of the National Assembly was not properly carried out, which is why even when Governor Godwin Obaseki was raised the alarm that, look, we are printing money illegally to shore up our monthly FAC allocations. They say you should shut up. The National Assembly has Committee on Banking and Finance and all manner of banking. They have a House of Reps committee, they have a Senate committee. Why was this not flagged? When Buhari sent them the ways and means of 27.1 trillion, why did they eventually pass it? And meanwhile, they passed it in with retroactive effect. Yeah, it's not like you presented the proposal and they are saying, okay, go and tidy up this, go and explain further on this. You had already spent the money. And then when it's just a month or two to your exit date, you now rewrote the approval to give retroactive effect to the illegality that has been performed. So they are all complicit. The National Assembly is complicit, the executive arm is complicit, and we are all living witnesses to the dire consequences of this abuse of ways and means. It's just so unfortunate that we live in a country that is not rule-based, where the rule of the thumb is what is paramount. Otherwise, some people should have gone to jail. Did you know that all these ways and means is not part of the charges that were leveled against Emefiele? The charges leveled against Emefiele are just he purchased vehicles, he used his wife to get contract. They didn't raise this issue of ways and means, which was a constitutional and illegality. As part of the answers he was supposed to supply. Why did you have to do this? Did you have presidential approval? Why were you printing money? You are a banker. He was an executive director of GND or Zenith Bank, as at the time he was appointed into the CBN. So he cannot claim ignorance. He was a banker and is educated enough to know that what he did was an illegality. But you see, because they need to give him soft landing, they will not bring up charges relating to that. So this is messing after death. Whether you want to investigate how this 30 trillion, and you ask yourself, what did we actually do with this 30 trillion?
Well, I guess
What
that's
are the
what
infrastructure that
that's part of what the
we were able to
investigation.
deliver on?
Well, I would like to believe that that is part of what the investigation will reveal to us. Now, let me come to Chris Otaigbe now. Chris, now, are you also of the opinion that this is the Senate playing the ostrich here? Because most of them, in fact, over 90% of them, were members of the Senate at the time, and they passed this into law. They approved it. And Ahmed Lawan, former Senate president, once said, "Look, this is water on the bridge. Let this go." He actually made that statement. What's your take on this now? All right, we'd like for you to unmute your microphone because we cannot hear you.
Can you hear me now?
I guess it's.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Go ahead, please.
Let me from where you stopped. The former president of the Senate, who is still the serving member of the Senate, actually said, no, is he still there? I don't really know much of that anymore. But actually said that let that slide. Does that make sense to any human being on this planet? See, when you are looking at Nigerian issue, and thank you, Dr. Jide Ojo, that was fantastic. You nailed it. However, the way I look at this is that we are dignifying criminal activities in our government with all sorts of grammar. That these people are using the machinery of government to empower themselves any which way they can.
Exactly.
Don't forget, because before they descended on the ways and means, they were using government to borrow loans we never needed, and we discovered that they were sharing it among themselves. So maybe they ran out of that idea. Okay, maybe somebody must have said, hey, how do we make money as we are leaving this government now? How do we make money? And then it's on record today that Chris Otaigbe, was on Emefiele's case. When most journalists have been settled, compromised, and I was the one saying that Emefiele is the worst, is the most criminal governor of Central Bank we will ever have. Emefiele was the guy, he was the creative mind in the art of extorting from public treasury of the criminal lot that was under Buhari. So ways and means, loans, other windows through which they steal money, the bottom line is, how do they steal money? It was just ways and means of stealing money. So ways and means was just, for me, one of the windows, one of the heads of it.
Okay.
That's why a former president can say, let it go. Because you know that we have money, I'm sure they are telling themselves, cool down, we will sort this out. Don't worry, you two, maybe you are in power now. We will have another, create our own ways and means that we can use to steal.
Well,
that's what is going on.
Nigerians are looking at this one. So even if they are trying to encourage each other to cool down, Nigerians are interested in this one, and I would like to believe that we'll get to the bottom of it one way or another.
Sorry to interrupt you. Nigerians don't count. What you have, I don't continue to repeat it because it is the truth. Criminals are in power, so they are looking for all sorts of windows and justifications to steal money, in our faces, and nothing we can do about it.
Sorry to interrupt you. That jab you threw caught me in the chin and threw me off balance. You said Nigerians don't count. Isn't this democracy again? Isn't this government of the people, for the people, by the people?
Look, let me define the government we have today. I've always said it, and that's the truth. We have the government we run today in Nigeria, not in Africa. This homegrown democracy, I want to define it for you right now. I better know it, and that's the truth. What we have right now is a bunch of individuals in power using state machinery to empower themselves. That's all. That's the government we have. We don't have a government where that's the ideology we are running. It's not democracy. We just use, did we do democracy in the last election? Was that democracy? No. We don't have democracy. Forget it.
Okay.
Even America that is pushing democracy is undemocratic outside. Inside they may pretend to be. Is it not the same America that overthrew an elected government in Ukraine? Is it not the same America that imposed on us the criminality that we are experiencing today in the name of democracy?
All right.
So please, we don't have democracy.
Okay,
Okay,
Mr. Chris will get back to you, but this is for Mr. Ojide Ojo. Okay, now we could remember that on May 23rd, 2023, that was when the Senate approves the 22.7 trillion, because about December 2022, the president, I'm talking about Mr. Buhari, presented to them an extra budget, let me call it that, saying that if they actually did not run through this or to, approve it, it is going to give us an interest of 1.8 trillion naira. And now yesterday, we have a Senator Abdul Ningi talking about this present administration talking about padding of the budgets again, which the Senate have come out to say that is not the truth. And not just that, even the northern senators also pulled out from this one, saying that they are not going to support Mr. Nengi on this particular one. Now, do you think with what happened in the previous administration and what Mr. Nengi is talking about now, saying that the budget that we are running on now is a padded budget, that what they agreed on in the Senate actually is different from what we're having as a present budget? Do you think that it's more like a repetition of what happened during the last administration that is what's going to happen now?
Well, my sister, even if I beg to disagree with Abdul Ningi about issue of padded budget. If there is anyone that padded the budget, it is the National Assembly that did. And it's on record that they increased the budget by 1.2 trillion from the one that the president presented to them on November 29. And let me also use this opportunity to say this. I've had the privilege of speaking on several media platforms, and I said to people who care to listen that budget is just a hollow ritual. Nigerian budgeting system is just an hollow ritual. Nobody believes in it. Nobody follows the budget. Let me shock you. The budget of 2024 that was presented on November 29, 2023 was 2,000 page long, 2,000 page. And the president presented it on November 29 and said, I want this back before the end of the year. And the same day, it passed first reading. By second, third day, it passed second reading. And what did the National Assembly do? They organized or stage manage what they call public hearing at Transcorp Hilton. Public hearing for what you have not read. How could you read 2,000 page document?
Isn't there a summary of it? Isn't there a summary of it? I don't know.
Wait, my brother. Even if there is summary, there is a popular saying that the devil is in the details. What you have in the summary is just like a two-pager. For a 2,000 page document, if you read a two-pager, can it give you an holistic view of what they just dealt with? Is just benchmark, oil benchmark, exchange rate, how many barrels of crude are you going to produce, and what will be. They didn't read the details, and I am saying I want anybody to prove me wrong that the Senate and the National Assembly did a thorough job on 2024 budget. They didn't. So if you have a 2,000 page document and all you read is just the one-pager executive summary, you have shot yourself in the foot, because as the white people will say, the devil is always in the details, and you need to read budgets. Shewoni Gbide's NGO in Lagos, budget and Center for Social Justice, what they discovered about 2024 budget will shock you. The kind of padding. Did you remember that the National Assembly increased its own budget from about 100 and something billion to almost 450 billion? Did you know that?
Yes.
They just increased across board. So if there is any padding in 2024 budget, it was done from the National Assembly point. And unfortunately for us too, this budget was supposedly passed on Saturday, December 30th. That time the president was away in Lagos on vacation. He came back on Monday, 1st of January, without reading it, without reading what was passed on Saturday. He appended his signature. There is a Spanish proverb that you don't sign what you have not read. Nobody could say that they read between Saturday when they passed the budget and Monday afternoon when the president signed the budget, that they have done due diligence. They have combed the budget with tooth comb to know areas of conflict, to know what has been, things that should not have been in the budget that have been inserted. Do you know, my brother and sister in the studio, that after the principal officers in the National Assembly, the chairman of appropriation committee is the next most powerful individual in that place, and he can do and undo. He can do and undo. Even when you say we just take legislation and lawmaking with we do it with triviality. In other climes, you don't sign things until you have read the final details. But you see, we are running what is called pork barrel politics in Nigeria. Pork barrel politics is rub my back and rub your back. Did you hear President whimper when the budget was padded by the National Assembly? He just signed. Everybody's interest has been taken care of. Did you hear that a member of the House of Reps from Edo State told newsmen that the president gave them 100 million naira each to buy rice, Christmas rice for their constituents, and that senators got 200 million? This man from Edo distributed his own. Majority of other members of the National Assembly never did. When they were asked, they said they have not received their own.
Okay, Mr. Ojo, now, because we're pressed of time, the people that were, the ad hoc committee that was set to look into there's a means and ways payments that amounted to 30 trillion naira. We have also Abdul Nengi as part of it, but now that some of the Senate members are beginning to say that they have to take him to court and they are beginning to take himself out of this, because of the way he was talking about the pardon of the government. Now, do you think at the end of the day, we're going to get a good or a clear report from this ad hoc committee? Because Wala Ejun told us that very soon we'll have the report from the ad hoc committee as regards the means and ways payment.
Well, there are media reports that there will be a storming session today. And I read Abdul Ningi has said that he was quoted out of context. So there is a votive face already that because many members of the Senate have dissociated themselves with him. Don't also forget that it's from the opposition PDP.
Yes.
So when he started playing the ethnic card, that the 2024 budget is anti-North and that it was padded by 3 trillion and all of that, many of his colleagues have started dissociating themselves. And he himself, as I yesterday evening, he allegedly said he was quoted out of context, that he didn't say that there was padding, that the budget was padded. So don't trust politicians with whatever they are mostly rabble-rousers, and I will not be surprised if this ends up being a storm in a teacup, because all of them have had their interest taken care of. and they won't want to rock the boat. So
Okay.
let's just leave it at that. We wait to see what will unfold today.
All right.
And subsequently, is it today we've been having committee reports? Many committee reports that are even more controversial than this are gathering dust on the shelves of the National Assembly. Public Affairs Committee, look at all the report of the Auditor General of the Federation that have indicted many agencies, ministries, departments, including the National Assembly. Which of them have they acted upon? Which of those Auditor General's report have they acted upon? So let's not just spill veins over these characters in the National Assembly.
Right. Okay.
Many of them have their own. It's about, as we say in politics, there is no permanent friendship or enmity in politics. Only interest is permanent. So everybody is crying to have a better deal, to have a bigger share of the national cake. It's not about national interest.
All right then. All right then. As we make to wrap up, I would like to take your concluding thoughts, but a few questions before I go to Chris, Paul, or Taibe's concluding thoughts. A few things I would like you to respond to as you make to wrap up. Question on the mind of Nigerians. One. Buhari's signature have been allegedly appended to certain documents. Why hasn't he come up to sue and say, look, somebody forged my signature and I want to sue? Why do you think he hasn't done that? Two, what's your take on the 40 trillion naira, 11 Hilux vans, 150 motorcycles being demanded by terrorists for the abduction of 16 Kaduna for those that reside in that place that have been kidnapped? What you think? I'm actually angry. That's why it's annoying to even imagine. Your take, please.
Brother, please don't burst your vein over Nigerian issue. The characters called bandits who are demanding 40 trillion are just trivializing a very serious matter. And I don't blame them. It's our security agencies and our government that I'm blaming, because we have not shown strength of character to deal with the issue of insecurity in this country. Remember the case of the Greenfield University students, 5 of whom were killed and hundreds of millions, collected from the victims. How can 16 people raise 40 trillion? Even if they are asking for 500 million, can they afford it? The people who are living in communities, rural communities, Goringora or wherever the abduction took place, it's not even an urban environment, it's a suburban environment. If those people who are in their captivity, if they were to have money, they would be living in Kaduna GRA, not in those kind of community. So is it that they are making that demand of the governor of Kaduna State or the federal government that they will be demanding 40 trillion? But like I said, it's because we have not set good examples in dealing with previous abductions. That's why they can gloat
Do you
and make
also
such.
think? Do you also think the rising insecurity in the northeast and the northwest now is part of measures to frustrate this administration?
Well, I wouldn't say so. The problem has been there. Will you say all those abductions that took place in Kankara, in Kagara, in Dapchi, in Chibok was meant to frustrate Buhari? There were more abductions in Buhari's home state of Daura than Katsina, when he was president. So I think it's just economic issue that we have not been able to treat the root cause of banditry, which is lack of employment and high rate of poverty. We have 133 million Nigerians that are multidimensionally poor. So to that extent, you should expect that water must find its level, and the ordinary citizens, the proletariat, will definitely demand and exert their own pound of flesh. Unfortunately, they are picking the soft target, which are the vulnerable students, pupils, and people in community. The high-powered people who are responsible for pillaging and embezzlement of our commonwealth are beyond their reach, because they are they live in fortified homes, they live in armored plated vehicles, they have security convoys, so they and their own family are protected, and many of them have actually relocated their families abroad. It's ordinary citizens like you and I who are being picked upon because we are their soft targets, God protecting us. So that is that. And about Buhari not suing
Okay.
for the forgery of his signature. Again, it beggars believe how easy it is for criminal elements to carry out this kind of exercise. That the signature of the secretary to the federal government, Boss Mustafa, and that of the president will be forged, and the governor of central bank will not be able to detect that, knowing full well that this subet, how can you be saying that you need $6.2 million to pay foreign observers? I have worked in the area of election in the last about 25 years now. There has never been a time that foreign observers were paid for coming to observe elections. So that should have raised the first raised red flag. That how come we are asking to pay EU observers, we are asking to pay Commonwealth observers, ECOWAS observers, African Union observers?
All right,
No, it has never been done because they always foot their own bills, and they got the funding from their own government. So I think it was a dereliction of duty on the part of Emefiele for honoring that $6.2 million request without fact-checking that this is out of place. There has never been any precedent to that prior to Buhari administration.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Jideojo. Chris did call you doctor earlier, and I've told you here that the title suits you well, Dr. Jideojo. That suits you well. I think you should find a way to embrace it.
There's honorary doctorate, so I accept it with all my heart.
All right,
Thank
then.
you very much.
All right, then. Now, let's, Mr. Chris Paul Otaigbe, let's get your concluding thoughts in, and thank you very much for staying with us. Please do unmute your microphone.
All right. Am I good?
Yes, you are. Go ahead.
Yes, you are. Go ahead. Thank you. So let me quickly also again express my gratitude to Mr. Dr. Jideojo, as we are honorably giving him the title. He has supplied the information, but to validate what I've been telling you all along, if you hear Nigerian government story, go to the back end. What are they not saying? How did the drama of ways and means happen unto us publicly? Some people sat behind and plotted the drama. Okay, this is what we are going to steal. This is how we are going to write the story. This is how we are going to write the letter. This is what we are going to describe it as. It's what they tell us that we agree now. Look at the budget padding. Budget padding. Look, that is their modus operandi. Somebody tried to bust it, and they are trying to bust the guy, and the guy is saying, well, I didn't say it, you could take me out of context.
All right.
Because they've told him behind, guy, didn't you eat in this matter? Are you the only one with mouth who can talk?
We have to go now. We have to go now.
Give you the drama, that's what is happening.
All right, then.
So we are glorifying and dignifying their criminality with narratives that they don't even want to contend them.
Well, we must thank you two gentlemen for staying with us on the program. We appreciate you for your thoughts and your contribution, and of course your time. We've been speaking with Chris Paul Otaigbe, International Chief Correspondent and Project Director, Affinity Television, based in the UK, and Jideojo, Development Consultant, author, columnist, and public affairs commentator. We thank you for your thoughts and views on the program. All right, well, we must say at this point, views shared by guests, those of the guests, and not the position of VOP TV. We'll take a break. When we come back, we delve into business, entertainment, and sports. Stay with us.